on to episode 8 of Orlando Out of Context. I'm Brian.
I'm Stephanie.
So this week we have a special treat for you. We have the van cam. We actually just got back from the interview, so we
went on location and sat in the old restored, well, not restored, but vintage VW bus.
Yeah, I mean he's John is doing a nice job of, I wouldn't call it restored.
No.
There are some pieces that
there's
some pieces that he's replacing, but it's definitely in good condition, and he's just kind of bringing it back to life. But he's using it as a photo booth
for events and weddings.
So he had, I think, initially reached out to us on Instagram.
And I'm glad he did, because this was a little passion project of mine, because I've always had like a love of Volkswagen. I've had 2 Beetles. I currently drive a Beetle. And my stepdad and I we love connecting with each other, talking about buses, because he loves the bus. And apparently the bus is coming back into production. So we hear some rumors online. So we'll see about that, maybe.
But it was a lot of fun, and we hope that you enjoy this interview with John and the van cam. So listen in, and then let us know what you think. Make sure that you are following us on Instagram at Orlando Out of Context. And then also please visit us at orlandooutofcontext.com. And you can listen and subscribe on iTunes and the iOS podcast app, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Spotify.
And you can also find John at the.vancam. So you can check out the pics from his events and stuff. Oh, can we turn the lights on?
Yes.
Can I put those on?
Yeah. Go ahead if you want. There's a little round button in the middle. Hit it twice, and the bright light will shine.
Oh, I see.
And then the other one over there. The other one to your left's got more juice, actually. So you can aim that, yeah. That's the only lighting I use for photo boothing at night.
Oh, really? These
they
little
were
ones?
$6 at Walmart. Yeah, and screw getting, like, expensive LEDs. These things,
my God,
I did a test with a friend of mine's professional lighting in here. Mm-hmm. The images were just as clean with these.
With those, yeah. Well, the lighting now is just, it's
I
affordable.
love it.
You can get it at gas stations now, almost,
pretty much. So tell me a little bit about when you're doing photography in here. Are you you're doing photography with people sitting here on the bench, and then you're in the front cab, or how do you set up, like?
Well, photography is sort of a loose word with this. It's more or less point and click. The guests are being shot on this back bench seat, and the camera is located basically in the middle of the van, somewhere in between the driver and passenger seat, but usually a little closer towards the seat. If it's a large group of people, all I do is just simply slide it closer to the front, the steering wheel, and it makes it a wider angle view. Mm-hmm. But that's it. It sets up on a tripod. It's touchscreen controlled, and sort of like the lighting situation I was just explaining, there's really no need for more advanced, in my opinion. This is all subjective, because photographers are finicky about stuff, but in my opinion, there's no more need for a robust setup than my touchscreen controlled camera, because you're not blowing up the pictures bigger than 2 inches. Mm-hmm. So even if it wasn't a clean shot. So
you're literally splitting out to them like the picture's printed.
Yes.
So, okay.
Printing in the front seat.
Okay.
The digital files I do send if it's a wedding, I do send to the bride and groom too. And again, though, I'm not their photographer for the wedding, so they're not critiquing me the same way they would the photographer. Sure. These are just their, hey, those were fun photo booth shots kind of thing. You'll get people all day long that'll dispute that and say, nonsense, every photographer should be using a DSLR for their photo booth. And for me, what I have works great, because photo boothing is not about, it's not really about perfection. It's not about the essence of the shot. It's the best shots happen in the moment. Yeah. And there's no doubt that cleaner image quality is better. I won't say that it would be better to have cleaner, but it's just not the type of image files that they're really weighing a lot of. It's not going on their mantle, their wedding portrait with their photographers going on the mantle.
So John, tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Well, I owned 2 vans like this before, or buses as VW enthusiasts would call it, and I was into photography from an amateur standpoint. I was mostly doing landscape and nature, but as most photographers know, it's a little hard to break through to getting paid to make a living doing photography unless you swallow the pill and become a wedding photographer, which is where the money is. But it's not the pill. It's not the most. I don't know. I can't say it's not rewarding. It is. I mean, you're making people's days. They're relying on you heavily for certain moments.
But it limits you. It limits your creativity.
It wasn't my creative
or passion.
Yeah, it wasn't my passion. I've done some wedding photography before, and I put my heart and soul into everything I do shoot. But it wouldn't be my first choice of creative outlet. So that's how I got into this. I was like, another way to do photography in a manner that I wanted to pick. I got to spend time in the van I already liked having and working on, and it pays decently. It pays close to what a photographer would make, which they get paid well for weddings.
You're like mirroring two things, right? So some photography, even though it's a photo booth, some photography, and then of course, the love of the vans.
I've actually used that same metaphor before, marrying the two passions to make.
So is this your everyday vehicle, or do you have your own car?
It's not. I do have a daily driver. As much as I would like to drive this thing every day, it's, despite the obvious, being an older vehicle, when things break on it, it's a little costly. Yeah. So, and you got to wait sometimes for parts. So I try to minimize the wear and tear on it so that I'm never faced with a situation of, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm not going to make it to your wedding today. A van broke down. I've got that covered anyways, and insurance.
Especially since you only have one, correct?
Yeah, I only got one right now. If that did happen, though, I would get it towed to the wedding. As much as that would suck, it would still make it.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
It's a good backup. It's just, it would suck, and because of that, I really just drive it for events right now.
So, in terms of maintenance, can you do any of the maintenance yourself, or do you have a mechanic that you...
I have a mechanic. There's certain things that are pretty straightforward with this, like changing the oil and the spark plugs and air filter and stuff like that. But I just had a fuel pump go out on this last week, and I had the mechanic do that because it's just more time than I had to spend on stuff like that. So
I noticed on your Instagram that your earlier photos, the van is blue. You said, is that the other one that you said you had?
That's the one I started.
This one?
Yeah, I started the company with that van.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cool. I started the company with that van, and it had its limitations. It was automatic. This is a manual. Automatics are pretty scarce on these, so I talked about parts already being a little time waiting, consuming, however you want to, just having to wait for parts. With automatic transmission, if something were to go wrong, it would be even longer. So I wanted to nip that in the bud before something did happen. So not just that, but I just fell in love with this van when I saw it for sale. It was everything I always wanted in a van from a personal standpoint as well as business. The guests can stand in this van just like in my other bus, but that was a pop top. This is a fixed hard top all the time, so if you're camping, you don't have to bring in the outside elements. If it's really hot or really cold, you're confined all the time. It can stand, whereas a pop top, you're going to have to deal with the cold or the hot and just be able to stand. So yeah, it's got its pros with a camping standpoint, but mainly as you know, I use this for a business, and I thought that this is just another way for my people to be able to stand and dance if they wanted to, because people get tipsy at weddings. But also
you don't say.
No, not at all. But also still give me the pros that I wanted on the personal standpoint. Yeah. Which was the camping benefits. Yeah. So
I was so excited when we became connected on Instagram, because I just love Volkswagens. I've had 2 Beetles, and my stepdad, he's like obsessed with
Shout out to Todd.
The buses. Shout out to Todd. So
man, this even has a bed. I don't think I've ever really looked in it. Is this supposed to be like a bed?
That is a bunk bed. Yeah. It slides forward, so
we're sitting in here. I'm sitting in here. They're standing next to me at the door. But everything in here is just so cute. like a little kitchen with little cups and
I mean, a lot of this stuff looks
like drapes on the window.
Original.
It is, with the exception of, like I said, the table has been wood replaced.
And really, really good condition. Like, is this wood paneling here on the sides? Do you think that's
actually
original,
vinyl. That's the same thing as on that door right there.
Okay.
Which is getting ready to be replaced. It's funny you say that, with this stained wood.
Okay.
It's going to be about a 1/4 inch thick wood design cut for that.
This looks good condition. I don't know if that's original or not.
It is, believe it or not, that is. It's in amazing condition. It's got a
What
bubble
year
on the
is
bottom.
this again?
This is 78.
Oh.
Second to last year they made the bus. They made it till 79.
So do you think you'll ever get more? Grow your business?
I certainly wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if it could, traffic can continue to increase. Yeah, for sure. Maybe have to hire somebody, but it'd be better to be doing. I don't like having to say no to people, so if I'm sure it'll happen in the future. No matter how mediocrely busy I am, there'll be a situation where somebody wants the van on the same date.
Yeah.
And
I mean, especially with weddings, in the summertime, the wedding season, and people
especially
having
wedding
multiple weddings on the same weekend days.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if it was losing $100, but to have to say no to a wedding is losing close to $1,000. So I would like to. It's a big money to put out to get that extra $1,000, but to buy a whole other vehicle. But if the elements come together in the right way, then I certainly wouldn't rule that out.
And you just started last year, right? So really, you're just getting started. I mean,
from a business standpoint, yeah. I mean, everybody says it takes a year to really start seeing money coming in, and I'm just getting to that point right now. The year point, that is.
Do you have staff that work with you?
Nope, just me.
Just you.
I'm the photo editor.
Nice.
I've got a guy that sometimes I bring in if I've got a 300 or 400 person wedding, as someone to run the printer while I'm running the camera.
Yeah.
But an extra set of hands.
Yeah, just an extra, because I only have 2, and if that wasn't obvious enough.
So what's your relationship with Orlando? How long have you been living here, or
I'm from here.
Are you from originally?
Yeah,
Orlando?
I'm actually from here.
Born and raised.
One of the few people from Florida,
That's very rare to see. You don't often meet people that have been here forever.
Yeah.
In this area?
Pretty close.
So right now, where are we right now?
We are. It's
we
funny
followed
you asked
GPS
that.
to get here.
So where we are from a GPS satellite pinpoint, we're on the corner of Orlando, because this is 32810 Orlando. Mm-hmm. Across that street over there, 414, is Altamont Springs. 1 mile that way to the west is Apopka, and 2.5 miles to your east is Maitland.
Okay.
So it's almost like in a four corners.
Right, we're like in the four corners. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So tell us about the events, because we've seen on your Instagram that you're doing kind of like food truck events
and stuff.
Out in the community. Are you doing that mostly kind of get the word out? What are you doing when you're at those events? Do you just kind of allow people to climb in and just check it out, or?
No, pretty much just to get the word out. Okay. I mean, I might make a little bit of money, but it's not. The whole goal of this is to make a living at it, obviously, and in order to do that, weddings and corporate events are the key. So when I do events like a street party or food truck meetup, it's really just to pay me a small time to be there, so it's not a complete waste of time, but also advertise. I mean, that's the main goal, is to advertise.
Right.
And it's the things I go to, I enjoy going to anyway. So I would be there whether or not I was with the van. So I've been part of this community for a long time, and for that reason, coupled with the things I'm doing, I'm already interested in anyway, like food trucks, and it's enjoyable. I can't really say that it's a waste of time, I didn't make enough money. No, I would be doing it anyway.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the Ace Cafe and events.
Yeah, it's a place we want to try. It's a new restaurant here in Orlando that's kind of like, where they have car cruises, you would pull up bikes, they have special nights, and I see they have a van night and a Volkswagen night.
Yeah.
So
people get the vans confused a lot with, they think old vans, they immediately think of Volkswagen. Like almost 9 out of 10 people, not all people, but I started a van club in 2000 and what year is it? 18. I started in 2016, and it's all old vans, all vintage vans. It's a good chunk Volkswagen, but it's really for anybody with an old van. Ace Cafe is where we moved to about a year ago for our meetups when they opened up, and it's The club's grown in number steadily over the past 2 years. We're getting ready to have a big show there on July 29th. It's called Van Life, and it's going to feature a lot of people who live in their vans, to just hot rod street type vans, to shag and wagon type looking vans, to vans like this, which are vans for business. You know, there's another guy who's got a van with a suicide door, and he has a business he uses.
Nice.
So it's going to be a good mix of people.
And what's
That's
the
a
name?
good place to, like, you know, make contacts and advertise too.
What's the name of the club?
Orlando Van Club.
Orlando Van Club.
Yes.
And where can they find more information?
That's actually our handle on Instagram.
Okay.
Orlando Van Club.
Orlando Van Club.
Yeah.
And the Van Cam's handle is at @Van Cam.
Yes.
Correct. All right.
So this bus here only has one bench in it, but I see there's like, so he's got like props in the back seat here, so when people come in here to take photos, they can hold up hats and stuff like
there's
that.
props behind
Is there
them.
another bench back there, or this is the trunk?
That's the trunk. What you're sitting on is both the master bedroom, but the couch, and the lounge. So basically, that backrest that where the rug is there folds down onto the seat you're sitting on, and underneath that is a couch bed, just like typical couch bed. It just folds right out on top of both of those pieces, full size.
Wow.
So it's Murphy. It's very possible Murphy Bed borrowed all their ideas from Volkswagen. Everything about this thing is transformable. You know, from the dining table.
You know, this is only the second bus I've ever been in, and it looks very different from the other one, and I thought they were all basically the same. I didn't know that any of them had like a full kitchen set up and a sink and a stove.
Do you think a lot of them get gutted, or some of them just get gutted? What the original
I would say
layout was?
I would say 75% of them are not original. If you find one that is, you're probably going to pay big bucks for it, or if at least in good condition.
Right.
A few years ago, I went to San Francisco, and I found, when I was planning for my trip, I was just doing some research, and I found a company called Vantigo that has like 3 or 4 originals, and they do tours of San Francisco in the bus.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like 3 rows of seating, but everything, inside is, I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah.
But imagine, like, driving a manual in San Francisco, where basically the hills are, like, straight up.
Oh, yeah.
And, you're bouncing, and you feel every bump in the road. But it was so cool. I mean, they were beautiful. It was a really cool way to see the city.
I wonder if they have other cities have
I
the
don't
same.
know.
Yeah.
Sure.
But, I think things like that are getting popular. People want to have unique experiences, and that even goes along with their wedding. You know, they want to have something cooler than just your normal photo booth.
Definitely.
They want to have,
Yeah.
The photo booth in
stuff.
general was kind of dead. It's all open air. Again, I'm a technical person, so I'm going to correct myself. It's not all. It's 95% open air, stand in front of a backdrop photo booth now. But the essence of the word photo booth was lost, and now it's starting to return.
Mm-hmm.
Everything vintage is
coming back.
Everything eventually becomes vintage, and people love vintage. And to get into something and have to huddle together with your friends makes them, whether it was a bus or whether it was a Mini Cooper, makes people kind of like just have fun.
Well, you can't really brand a photo booth, but you can brand this business. You know what I mean? Like a photo booth can't be branded, but for sure you could brand this.
So do you play music in here? Do you have a fan?
It's an option. It's an option. We got a Wi-Fi, Bluetooth controlled speaker up there in the storage area, and we've also got one that sits down here. They both pair together, and when the client wants us to have music at their event, normally it's corporate events. We don't really get requests for playing music at a wedding because there's a DJ. So we do have that option when they want it. Yeah.
And also they do. Like if you want to take pictures with the bus as a whole, like you want to, with your wedding gown, and you want to stand in front of it, and I saw some really nice photos like that. Yeah,
definitely. It makes a great. In fact, we're doing a photo shoot next week. It makes a great tool for setting like a vintage boho.
Yeah, even if
scene.
you had, maybe you had a clothing line or something, and you wanted to take some pictures for your website.
Every reason you can think of, I've had people present as to why they wanted to use it for a shoot. And hopefully, VW, if vintage things are popular, any vintage thing, but hopefully VW buses will stay a vintage thing for a while.
Well, definitely. But I also isn't VW bringing the bus?
I heard that they're bringing the bus back.
Yeah.
They have some prototypes.
I heard it was confirmed.
will never be this cool.
Yeah.
It will never be this
but
beautiful.
even with the bringing back a new one, I think it would still fuel this as well. To get a
it would drive the prices on these up even more.
Yeah.
Because it's just labeled a VW bus.
Right.
And to see those marketed again in any way as a new thing, people are just gonna start looking it up like anything else.
Right. Yeah.
I have heard though, it's supposedly it is finally confirmed. They've been talking about it for like 3-4 years.
Well, because are they stopping production now on the Beetle, right?
When I took my car in to get an oil change, that's what the guy told me, or when I got my tires. So it wasn't a Volkswagen dealership. So I immediately went home and got online, and I was like, oh my god, no.
Mm-hmm.
But it says that they originally I guess put that out there in the atmosphere, and I guess they got a lot of pushback. They were saying that the sales in the Beetle have declined since the re-release in '98, but it says they won't any time in the near 3-4 years, but maybe eventually.
It surprises me because Mini Coopers and Fiats are getting so popular. A small, quirky car.
Yes.
Right.
I'm not sure why.
It's a lot of personality.
Yeah, it's a lot of personality, and there's nothing. I mean, a VW Beetle is definitely as iconic as a VW bus, and these are popular. So why isn't the old school Beetles are popular?
Yeah.
And the fact that they're going to re-release the bus and everybody's talking about it already, it surprises me that they re-released the Beetle with as much of a following as the old Beetle.
Yeah.
That there's not a bigger demand for it.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting. I know VW. They just came out with their 3-seater.
Yeah, the new
SUV. So maybe they are kind of taking a look at more larger capacity vehicles, because I'm guessing that the van is not going to have, the new van's probably not going to have a kitchen, but I could be.
I don't think it is. I think it's going to be a transportation focused vehicle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They want to get into the EV market because EVs are growing, and I've seen the concept of the new bus, and it is electric with a long range. They know most people who are buying VW vans are most people who would.
Of it.
Yeah, it's really for the badge in the front.
Yeah.
Most people that would buy a VW van coming back aren't really going to camp in it. They're going to just drive around and say, look at me in my cool van.
Yeah.
And
does VW have any EVs on the market right now? Electric vehicles?
Not in the U.S.
No.
They might overseas.
They have some diesels, but
there's so many cool cars available overseas that aren't here.
yeah, he was talking about that. He lived in Brazil for a little bit.
I lived in Brazil for a year, so there was they had I love the Chevy Cruze hatchback.
Mm-hmm.
They had the hatchback in Brazil, and they finally brought it here, but I liked it the old style better.
Mm-hmm.
It was just really nice. But yeah, there's so many different cars that living here we don't even know.
Oh, even in the Bahamas, there's different manufactured vehicles by the same
And they have
company.
a lot of little cars there,
Yep.
Because there's so many and the roads are so tight there.
Yeah, the cars here are huge compared to Latin America.
Here, the EPA standards allow for gas-guzzling vehicles. Overseas, it's so much stricter. It requires cars to get like 50 miles per gallon at least. Mm-hmm. And VW's got a car over in Europe called the Polo. It's a little 3-cylinder.
Okay.
And the closest thing here in the U.S. is a gas 3-cylinder Mitsubishi Mirage. And it achieves, mid to high 40s, which it doesn't sell well, though. I mean, that alone kind of tells you maybe why it's not here in mainstream. Because even as quirky and neat as the Minis are, they're still not designed for gas mileage. They're just designed to look cool.
Right.
And people buy cars because they look cool and not necessarily because of how good gas mileage.
Right. Well, that's definitely true.
Except for the Prius. That's an exception.
That's what I have.
You have a Prius?
He loves it.
I love my Prius.
I mean, those things took off.
I love my Prius.
I love my Beetle. I just kind of wish it was bigger. I love my Beetle so much. It's the second one I've had. But,
I like the new ones.
Bigger.
I like these new ones too. I like the newer.
Especially the interior is a lot more stylish.
Yeah.
A lot more luxurious. It doesn't feel like such a basic car.
And it feels bigger. This newer one, feels a little bigger.
The old Beetle, the one that they discontinued in the 80s, was meant style-wise for men or women. And when they re-release it in 98, they may not have intended it to be a female-driven audience, but it ended up that way.
This new Beetle, I think it's more it's a little bit more masculine.
I think that's what they were doing.
Yeah, it combines, both, I think, nicely.
I definitely think that was the goal.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of shocked as to why they're discontinuing it, because I think they
were saying sales have been decreasing every year, little by little. I think it just might be all the other cars that are being available. People want it.
I'm convinced that manufacturers sometimes discontinue a vehicle to re-release it with a huge fervor.
Right, like the EV version of the Beetle.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
So.
All right, John. Well, it was really nice talking to you.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you so much.
I just sitting here just with the hugest smile on my face because it's just so cute.
Thank you.
And I love it.
And it smells vintage, too.
Yes, it does smell vintage.
Isn't it great?
And that's not a smell you can buy.
No, you can't.
So make sure you guys go and follow at the.vancam on Instagram. And
check out the photos; they're so cute. So beautiful.
John, do you post anywhere like where you're going to be, like in terms of like food truck locations and stuff, so people can come find you?
Yes.
I saw you were at a 4th of July event last night.
Yep.
So do you post that on Instagram?
I do.
Okay, cool. Like on your story or just on your feed?
I'll do both. I'll post it on the feed, and then as it gets closer, I'll do the story.
Okay.
And then a couple weeks after the event's over, maybe not even that long, but maybe within a week, even a week after the event's over, I'll delete that picture in the feed of the event.
Got it.
Because I'm trying to keep the pictures focused on mainly an artistic manner.
Yeah.
But to get the word out there, I'll put it on both.
Yeah.
Sure.
And obviously, when the story's over, the story's erased, but it's not on the feed. Exactly. So I go back on there and I delete it from the feed.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
But definitely go, come check it out if you see it out in the wild. And, book it for your party, your birthday, your wedding.
Corporate events.
Be the cool person,
Exactly.
So when your guests go home, they can say, "Oh my God, you know what I did at this wedding? Sat in this really cool Volkswagen bus."
Yeah. Very true.
You'll see it in the wild. It's a rare species, but it's not endangered.
Well, thanks again, John.
You're welcome.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we hope you enjoyed that interview. We had a lot of fun meeting with John, and it was a great opportunity, a great chance to meet somebody
Orlando native,
and just see a growing local business. So we definitely will be staying in touch with John, and hope that you guys check out his Instagram.
He told us he has some secret spots that he
we might
might
have him back on for some more in-depth tips about where to go in Orlando. So after we did the interview, I said, "Hey, Steph, you want to go grab some ice cream?" And I started looking at the app at some of the places that I wanted to go. A lot of them were closed because we kind of did the interview a little bit late. But one of the ones that was not closed was Andy's Frozen Custard. And this is a chain. Stephanie, you asked the gal
at the window. She said it is a chain originating from Missouri.
Okay.
But on their website here, it looks like they have Texas, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee,
and looks like
Chicago or Illinois.
And it is Andy's
Oklahoma.
It's Andy's Frozen Custard. And I would have to say that what stood out to me about the place is because it's cute because I'm not necessarily a custard fan myself.
Nor I'm not either.
But the place is very kind of retro.
It's like neon
50s
like
kind of
drive up.
Yeah.
Which is what attracted us to the place in the first place. We've been seeing it for a while because it's kind of in an area where we do a lot of shopping. And it just came out of nowhere. Like I don't think there was really anything in that spot.
It's
and
a
one
new
day
build.
It just popped up.
It's new construction.
And we're like, oh my gosh, look at that cute little place.
So it's on International Drive, kind of what I call a little Brazil, where the Brazilian restaurants are, across the street from Hash A Go-Go. Is that Hash A Go-Go?
Yes.
That's what it's called.
Hash House A Go-Go.
Right next to Sonic drive-through, but Andy's Frozen Custard is the location. And let's see, I had the James Brownie Funky Jackhammer. I really liked it, and as we kind of forewarned we're not the hugest fans of custard, but I liked it because...
Let me give a verbal description to kind of get your tongue salivating a little bit. Andy's frozen custard blended with creamy peanut butter and brownies and then filled with a hot fudge core.
Yes. Actually, I'm surprised there wasn't more brownies. But the reason that I liked it was because
it was too blended. There were no chunks.
I
like chunks.
Yeah, you're right. It was the brownies were kind of crumbled at the bottom. But the reason I like this is because somehow they shove hot fudge all the way down through the middle. So it just kind of is a good mix between the custard and that hot fudge. So I enjoyed it actually, and I thought there was just the right amount of peanut butter. Because sometimes I think
it's too much.
The peanut butter can be overpowering, but in this case, there was just the right amount. But I know you didn't really have that much of it, but no. I think that for me, that brownie should have been more like chunks of brownie rather than it was crumbs of brownie. But
yeah, it was brownie crumbs.
But I thought it was good. The staff was really friendly, and the location is really cute. I think.
And they have like a little, it's open air. So basically when you walk in, the counter it's like a room, but I mean, it's open.
It's an open air room.
So it's like glass that can be pushed all the way to the side, like blinds. But there's fans. They have like really big fans in there. So it feels cool. It's not like hot.
Yeah, it wasn't hot.
Which is nice in Florida because... I don't know, up north where I grew up, there's a lot of ice cream places, and people get ice cream a lot in the summer. But it's not as, for some reason, it's not as prevalent here in Florida. Like, that's just something we would do. Like, after dinner, we would, get in the car and, like, go to the ice cream place and just sit on the picnic tables and eat. But you don't see that too much here.
I remember we
Florida.
had ice cream parlors. And basically, it was like a restaurant. They served food. It's kind of like Friendlies.
Like Friendlies.
But we didn't have Friendlies. I don't even remember what it was called. But Mom probably could tell me. And she will tell me after she listens to this podcast. She'll tell me exactly what it was. But, it's like most people would go there to just have ice cream.
Yeah.
I don't think we hardly ever ate their, like, food. But they did have hamburgers and sandwiches and things. But you would have the server, and they would take your ice cream order, and it's a full service ice cream parlor. But yeah, you're right.
You would think there would be more places like that in Florida, but there's not. There really isn't.
I think we have a Friendlies on International. Do we still have a Friendlies on International?
Yeah, but like you said,
Drive?
that's a restaurant. You go and you sit inside and you sit at a booth and you order food or ice cream.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a place where people just like kind of hang out outdoors. People drive their cars around, and you know what I mean? Like if you have a nice car, you'll come drive it around the building. People just be like hanging out, sitting on the picnic tables.
Yeah, down here in South Orlando.